Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 9 just confirmed the reason why Boruto doesn't use his karma. He simply can't control it. And we are not the only ones who notice that this is the case, as Kawaki also picked up on the fact that Boruto can't control his karma. Boruto, although he has gotten quite strong in the time skip, he still fears one thing, and that is Momoshiki taking over his body. And that fear has merit, because with Boruto's newfound powers in the time skip, if Momoshiki is to take control of his body, it will truly be the end of this planet. And with the current fights that we are seeing Boruto partake in, we can understand why he needed some sort of a break after he went and sat down with Kashin and had a talk. During that time, he was clutching his hand that had the karma, probably indicating that he was struggling to control his karma at that point. And if you realize everything that's been going on at the current moment, you would understand why Boruto is currently feeling this way. All the events that we are currently seeing take place is taking place in the same day. So all the L's that Kawaki is taking place in the same day, but all of the fights that Boruto has been fighting has also been happening during that same day. We know this to be the case because when Jura and Hidari come to the village, we find out that the villagers are still undergoing hiding, which means that the events that led to Code coming into the village and everybody going into hiding, and then the Ten Tails evolving and Jura and Hidari later on coming into the village, all of this is happening in the same day, which means that all of the fights that Boruto has been fighting in and involved in has been taking place during that same day, leading up to what Boruto is currently feeling, because Boruto must be low on chakra, especially after the multitudes of battles that he has had to partake in. Boruto came to the village using Flying Raijin and landed on Code's face. He then fought Code and his Clawgrams and ended up using Rasengan Uzuhiko. Rasengan Uzuhiko takes the power of the planet and uses it against his opponent. Boruto literally has the power of the Earth's rotation in his hands with his Rasengan Uzuhiko. This ability is quite strong and it probably requires a lot of chakra, but it doesn't stop there. As to go to that other dimension, Boruto uses Flying Raijin. Boruto tells us that he is not that good at using Flying Raijin compared to Minato, which would mean it's either technique or it takes him more time to do it, or maybe it takes more chakra for Boruto to be able to use the Flying Raijin. But Boruto goes to that dimension and ends up fighting the Shinshu. He fights the Shinshu by himself with Code, who doesn't help and ends up running away. During their altercation, Boruto uses Flying Raijin multiple times. He uses Lightning Style against the Bug Shinshu clone. He uses a Rasengan against Hidari, and he uses the Flying Raijin to make his way back home. And during that fight, he was hit with some pretty big moves. The Jidori from Hidari, a bit of Taijutsu from Bug, and he was captured for a moment by Matsuri's Earth Style, which means that in that fight, not only did Boruto have to use a lot of chakra, but he did sustain some sort of injuries, or at least it was physically taxing on his side. But it doesn't stop there, as Boruto again makes his way back to the village using Flying Raijin, where he fights Mitsuki and uses Purple Lightning twice, once where he was near Sarada and Sumire, and another time when he was about to hit Mitsuki and his clones in the forest in Konoha. And he also uses Lightning Thunderbolt to cancel out Mitsuki's lightning attack. He could have used the karma then, but we know that Boruto refuses to use his karma, so he had to hit back Mitsuki with another lightning ability of his own. And he ends up flying away to escape from Kawaki and has been flying through Konoha during this entire day. Later on, he runs away from Kawaki using Flying Raijin, which he then goes to Orochimaru's hideout where he talks to Kashin and is clutching his hands. Boruto must be low on chakra, especially after fighting all these fights and opponents. And when he comes back to the village directly, the first person he meets is Kawaki, and he does have to fight Kawaki in the end. But I don't know if most people will call that a fight. Kawaki didn't really do anything, and Boruto didn't really have to use any jutsu. It was simply a punch. But after all the battles that Boruto must have fought, he must be low on chakra, which is why he is now having more trouble controlling his karma. And when Kawaki is using his karma, Boruto's karma resonates with Kawaki's, causing Boruto's karma to activate when Kawaki's karma activates and Kawaki is in Boruto's vicinity. And we already know from the experiences that we have had in the past that when Boruto is low on chakra or sustains a big blow, it is the perfect time for Momoshiki to take over. Boruto in the fight versus Boro, he had spammed all sorts of abilities, and after they believed to have defeated Boro, he was low on chakra. Boro then had this crazy transformation where he went berserk and was literally beating up an already injured Team 7. Boruto, who had sustained multiple big blows from Boro and was also low on chakra, Momoshiki was then able to take control of Boruto's body for the first time and dealt with Boro quite easily. And from then on, every time that Momoshiki has taken control of Boruto's body, Momoshiki has been getting stronger. And this is one of the many differences that we have with Momoshiki as an inner demon compared to Kurama. Because with Naruto, who had Kurama as an inner demon, Kurama was the person who was making Naruto stronger all throughout the series. Whenever Naruto would use some of Kurama's powers or chakra, he would go crazy and get stronger. However, this is different with Boruto and Momoshiki's dynamic, as Boruto doesn't rely on Momoshiki's powers and refuses to do so, especially in the time skip. But the one who is making the other stronger is inverted, because Boruto is the one who is making Momoshiki stronger, instead of Momoshiki being the one that makes Boruto stronger, just like Kurama would make Naruto stronger. We're seeing the dynamic being flipped here. Boruto has become a lot stronger in the time skip, and that is because of all of the goals that he has to achieve. But it just means that he has inadvertently made Momoshiki stronger too, because when Momoshiki does take control of Boruto's body, he will be able to tap into all of the powers that Boruto has. Because just as shown with all of the times that Momoshiki has taken control of Boruto's body, when he takes control of Boruto's body, he uses Boruto's body a lot stronger than Boruto himself. Boruto used True Essence Karma, and he was relative to a no limiter code, but when Momoshiki took control, he used body in such a destructive way that Code himself couldn't believe the levels of difference in the powers that Borushiki had compared to his. This already shows that Boruto, yes, he is strong now, but when Momoshiki takes control of his body, he gets stronger than the Boruto that we have seen, just due to his battle IQ and the way he uses Boruto's powers. And now we're seeing something also that is quite interesting with Kawaki. As noted by Boruto himself, after taking care of Kawaki, Boruto questioned what type of training Kawaki had. But it seems like Kawaki's training was simply focused on mastering his karma, which is why we see a Kawaki who has mastered all 8 of Ishiki's triangles from his dojutsu. However, his base stats are terrible. Kawaki is nothing without the karma, and even with the karma, since his base is so weak, he is not strong at all. But with Boruto, it is different. Boruto has strengthened his base but neglected his karma. We are seeing it being flipped, 2 different extremes. One who mainly relies on the karma as he sees karma as power, and another one in Boruto who neglects his karma and relies on his base. These are the 2 different sides, and each side is bad in their own way. What they should both be doing is relying on both so that they can get even stronger. It's a lot harder for Boruto to do due to Momoshiki, but for Kawaki, he truly misunderstood it, and instead of focusing on his powers alongside the ones that he has received with the karma, he decides to focus on the karma only. But it is not all illogical for Kawaki, as Kawaki is somebody who adapts, and I wouldn't say that Kawaki isn't smart, because all of us, it's not my own theory, all of us have the same idea. We all know what Kawaki wants to do now that he has seen that when he uses his karma, Boruto can't control his. Kawaki needs an action to take place that will confirm all of the memories that people have of Boruto, which basically means Kawaki wants to frame Boruto yet again. And this is a smart decision for Kawaki, because you have to pay attention. Kawaki is starting to believe that not only is there a spy who is working in the sensory team, but also Shikamaru is on Boruto's side, and for some odd reason he is neglecting the omnipotence that should cause him to hate Boruto. Kawaki has figured it out ever since Shikamaru informed Boruto that Kawaki was coming. How did Boruto escape? That was the question that was on Kawaki's mind, and the only answer for Kawaki was that Shikamaru was working with him and that there is somebody in the sensory team that is also working with Boruto. That is what he says in chapter 4. He believes that there is somebody in the sensory team that is working with Boruto, although at the time in chapter 4 that wasn't the case. In chapter 8 and in chapter 9, as we are currently seeing, Shikamaru and Ino to some extent are on Boruto's side, and Kawaki is starting to realize this. So what Kawaki needs now is for everybody to reconfirm the doubts that they have. That's why Kawaki's language all throughout the chapter is very specific into framing Boruto to be the bad guy. When Boruto comes to the village and is right next to the people that Jura and Hidari said, the first thing that Kawaki does is blame everything on Boruto so that everybody will believe that Boruto is the one who is working with them, which is why he says, "Oh, are they your friends?" People look at this and say that Kawaki is dumb. Why would he ever believe that Boruto would be working with the Shinshu? He knows that Boruto would only protect the village. Yes, Kawaki knows that, but he believes that there is a spy or somebody who is working with Boruto in the village. So what he has to do is convince all of those people that Boruto truly is the bad guy, which is why all of the language that we're seeing Kawaki use when it comes to Boruto is to paint him as a bad guy. And the best way to paint Boruto as the bad guy would be to get the bad thing inside of Boruto to come out and act. And the way that Kawaki plans on doing this is by having Momoshiki take control of Boruto's body. Just like Momoshiki saved Kawaki in chapter 78 by taking control of Boruto's body and freeing Kawaki, Kawaki will return the favor by having Momoshiki take control of Boruto's body by him getting his karma to resonate with Boruto's, freeing Kawaki from the shackles of Boruto's control. And the reason why this is the case, and this is even possible in the first place, is because Boruto did not master his karma during the time skip, and it is simply because he is afraid of it. Kawaki has no excuse for not mastering his base and simply focusing on the karma, but Boruto has an excuse for not wanting to use the karma at all, especially with everything that has been happening ever since chapter 75. Boruto and Momoshiki's minds were confirmed to be merging in chapter 75, where Boruto could now channel Momoshiki's power a lot better, but Momoshiki's thoughts would also appear in Boruto's mind, allowing him to see the future and knowing what was going to happen. This is what we left part 1 of Boruto at, and in part 2 this must have definitely gotten worse, and it would explain why Boruto doesn't use the karma when it comes to fighting against Code, because if Boruto used the karma, then Momoshiki would be able to take control. And we know what happened to Sasuke after the fight versus Code. He got turned into a tree. But if Boruto used Momoshiki's powers, Sasuke wouldn't be turned into a tree, he would be dead, and Momoshiki would be working with Code to get their hands on Kawaki and turn him into a chakra fruit, which would basically mean that the planet would come to an end. But I do believe that something else may have happened in the time skip. Obviously, in the future, we're going to learn how Boruto met with Kashin Koji and probably also Orochimaru, but before that, I do believe that Momoshiki may have taken control of Boruto's body and really confirmed to Boruto that he should not use his karma ever again. As we literally saw in chapter 75 that Boruto was now aware that his mind was merging with Momoshiki. However, Boruto still used his karma in chapter 78 to fight against Kawaki, when Kawaki ended up sealing his parents. But why in the time skip Boruto refuses, even though the main problem at hand is that Momoshiki and his minds are merging? What caused Boruto to decide that I will no longer use the karma? I believe that there was an instance in the time skip where Boruto used his karma and something may have happened to Sasuke where he ends up fighting Sasuke, and Sasuke later on proves his resolve as stated in chapter 78 that he would be the one to bring back Boruto if Boruto was to go on another rampage. Maybe that's what happened. Boruto used his karma trying to practice and learn how to control his powers, but then ended up harming Sasuke again. Maybe Sasuke didn't lose a part of his body like before, but it was still a process that gave Sasuke injuries, just like what happened with Naruto and Jiraiya in the time skip. This could be the case and would explain why Boruto is really hesitant when it comes to using the karma, and it would also explain why, if something ends up happening to the village when Kawaki forces Boruto to use the karma and leads to Momoshiki taking control of his body, maybe that's why Boruto asked Kawaki why he had to go so far. As if Momoshiki does take control of Boruto's body, the scenes that we see the village at in the first episode and first chapter in the time skip, it would all make sense. Momoshiki is a known spammer. We saw him spam such destructive powers when using the karma. He can create multiple large Rasengans that could easily destroy the village. So it would make sense if the village is destroyed in the time skip. Now, the only question that now remains would be, when exactly could this take place? Would this take place in the following chapters? As we know that Jura is in the village and somebody's going to have to deal with him. Kawaki can't do it. Himawari, she does have the Nine Tails powers, but is she going to be able to handle Jura just on her own right now without mastering her powers? I doubt that. So is Boruto going to have to use his karma and then Momoshiki take over and fight Jura or the Shinshu? Maybe that's the path that it goes. But I personally believe that the fight between Boruto and Kawaki, the one that we see in chapter 1, doesn't really happen at the current moment. So I'm not 100% sure that the village is going to get destroyed in the next few chapters, but what I believe that Kishimoto is doing, he is foreshadowing an event taking place where Kawaki will force his karma to resonate with Boruto's, causing Boruto to lose control and Momoshiki to come out. Whether this leads to the destruction of the village or not, that's what we're going to have to find out. But Kawaki is plotting something very interesting, and although he is weak, he could really prove his point by having Momoshiki kill somebody, and then everybody will be against Boruto like before. This could really happen. But maybe this isn't really the case. Maybe that's not what's going to happen when Boruto ends up using the karma, as when Momoshiki takes control of Boruto's body, usually it is after Boruto uses the karma after a long period of time or has sustained some sort of injury. At the current moment, I don't think that Kawaki can give Boruto any injury that could force Momoshiki to take over. So maybe it isn't the case that Boruto doesn't use the karma because he fears that Momoshiki would take over, but he fears that he will become like Momoshiki. Because when Boruto uses his karma, he not only inherits Momoshiki's battle experience, but he also inherits some of his abilities. Which is why Boruto was finally able to create a big Rasengan in chapter 78 against Kawaki, even though Kakashi told us that Boruto would never be able to create a Rasengan of that size due to his chakra reserves. But after he becomes an Otsutsuki and says that he can channel more of Momoshiki's abilities, he is able to do that. Those are some of the things that we know come from the karma. But due to Boruto and his minds merging, maybe when Boruto uses the karma, he not only gets the experience and the abilities, but he also develops Momoshiki's personality traits and some of his behaviors. Which would mean that Boruto loses himself in some sort of way. He becomes more arrogant, more bloodthirsty, and sees humans as inferior creatures. Maybe that's what happens when Boruto uses the karma. He becomes more like Momoshiki, but not Momoshiki himself. And Momoshiki would still have to take control of his body if he undergoes some sort of physical harm and can wiggle his way into Boruto's psyche, but just when Boruto uses the karma, maybe he just becomes more like Momoshiki and more like an Otsutsuki who is bloodthirsty. But regardless of that, Boruto is afraid of Momoshiki's powers, and Momoshiki has been shown to be growing all throughout the Boruto series, from only being able to dispatch of Boro to being able to keep up with Kawaki later on at the end of part 1. Watch this video right here to figure out just how strong Momoshiki has gotten in Boruto's body.